Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our session today. There's still a couple of people connecting, so I'll let people in as they join. So welcome and thank you for connecting. I know we were hoping to do something outdoors in person, but obviously we're in a strange time where the rules change on the fly, and we had to pivot fairly quickly to be able to handle this. So we have moved to an online forum, and I thank you for joining us today. I will share a couple of things up front. So I'm going to keep my introduction very short. My name is Jamie Wilkie. I am one of the current counselors, but I'm on my way out. So I wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to ask questions and participate in a forum where you can ask questions of your candidates for council. Everybody is muted by default. I'm going to keep it that way. And I will unmute folks or ask you to unmute if you do have a question that you want to ask. It just keeps the background noise to a minimum, and that is important in sessions like this. The session is being recorded. It will be available on YouTube for review and for anybody to send out that wants to. I'll just ask that everybody, if you're able to, please have your name correct on screen. It's just nice to know who we're talking to if you do have questions. And just want to thank you all for taking the time to attend. Today's agenda, obviously approximate times, depends on how everything goes. From 5:30 until about 6:15, we're going to allow candidates up to 5 minutes each to introduce themselves and what their platform is. We have one prepared question. It's up on screen here related to the amalgamation process. So we will ask that question of all of the candidates and give each of them 2 minutes to respond to that. After that, it's over to you as residents. It's your show, your questions at that point in time. I'll cover off how to ask questions in one moment here. It should be a relatively painless process. We will take that Q&A as far as we can. We'd originally scheduled this to stop at 7:30 just because we were going to be doing it outside and it would get dark around that time. So we may go a hair longer than that today. And then at the end of the session, what I'm going to do is there are breakout rooms in Zoom. This is something where smaller groups can get together and have a chat. If you have specific questions for individual candidates, you can always hop into one of those breakout rooms at the end, even just to say hi or whatever you'd like to do. We'll make those available if folks want to use them. Totally understand if you don't as well. How to ask your questions. There's a lot of text on screen, but here's the gist of it. If you want to ask a question live, if you'd like to unmute yourself and directly ask the question, please just type in the chat your name and that you would like to ask a question. I will be keeping a list of everybody who wants to ask a question, and I will go through that list in order. You will be called on when it's your turn. Your video feed will be centered on screen so that you can speak, and you'll be asked to unmute at that time in order to ask your question. If you'd like to have me ask a question, you can always put your question in the chat. I will just mention that I will prioritize those who would like to ask questions live, just like at a regular event, where if you're going to go up to the microphone to ask your question, we will prioritize those questions first. General guidelines, you can direct your question either to individual candidates or to all candidates. We're not going to allow any questions that are offensive or derogatory to candidates or to the town. These are questions, not speeches, so try to keep them as short as you can so that we can get through as many questions as possible. Candidates will have up to 60 seconds to respond to each question. I will be running a timer and trying to enforce that as best as I can. If time is tight, we might triage questions just based on folks who haven't had as much time to speak, or based on questions that may have been covered to some extent already. So if we get tight on time, I may start doing that, but that's not the plan at this point in time. So that's the general guidelines. So if folks do want to ask questions, you can absolutely put those in the chat or try to get your speaking order into the chat right now. As I said, just put in your name, would like to ask a question, and then I'll make sure that I capture that and put it in my speaking order list. So with that, I'm going to turn off the screen share. We don't need to do that anymore. So I want to kick things off today by just very briefly saying thank you to the great country and province that we live in for allowing us to participate in this democratic process every 4 years or so. So this is the best place to live, and I'm incredibly proud to be a part of it. So I always appreciate saying my thank you to our country and province up front. I also like to acknowledge our First Nations neighbors. We are on Treaty 7 territory, which is the traditional and ancestry territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina Nation and the Stoney Nakoda First Nation. So I'd like to thank those traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. And I make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we are residing on today. With that, what I'd love to do is, we know who the mayor is going to be for the next few years. And it's Mr. Barry Crane, who's with us today as well. So I'm going to ask Mr. Crane to just sort of give us a quick introduction. Barry, I'll put a timer on you, but if you can keep it under 5 minutes, that'd be great. Barry, over to you for any comments that you wanted to kick the session off with.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Wilkie. First of all, I'd like to just acknowledge the fact that I thought I could talk a lot repeatedly in one sentence, but I don't think Councillor Wilkie breathed for the last 5 to 8 minutes. That was well done, I must say. Easily to tell that you're an online instructor for sure. No, I jest. But what I would like to say, first of all, before I get too far, is thank you to Councillor Lana Hamilton and Councillor Wilkie for all their service for the last 4 years. It has been an absolute pleasure to have them at the same table, pulling from their strengths and knowledge, and really just a cohesive group this past council was. So speaking to a council, as mayor, I am nothing more than another councillor who gets to chair the meeting. That is all my position entails. I chair the meeting and I'm the spokesperson. So when we sit around a table or a council table in camera, there's a few things that we really hold dear, or we have in this last 4 years, and that's respect, cooperation, and humility. I think humility is one of the bigger factors in council work. We all come into this position, if we're lucky enough to get elected, with expectations of achieving, milestones, markers, things that we were passionate about and we want them done. Well, once you get into that seat, it quickly becomes a reality that you're not going to get to where you want to as fast as you thought you were going to. So you have to have a little humility and say, okay, I need to take the time to learn this process and how this system works of municipal government, because it's not the same as the private sector. It's not the same as a volunteer organization where you can push through and achieve things based on your own physical effort. It is a team effort. It is all about cooperation and respect, respecting the conversations, respecting each other's opinions, most importantly, and not drawing a line in the sand and becoming closed-minded. I use the word open-minded a lot because when you're at a council table, and I have been for 8 years now, you want to be open to different opinions. You want to be open to points of view that you haven't necessarily thought of yourself. It's great to be passionate and say, man, I got the solution for this, but you know what? Someone else might have a better answer. And many times I have been corrected. Many times I have apologized to my councillors for being a little bit obtuse, for being a little short-sighted or short-winded. If you're at a meeting till 10 at night, and you haven't eaten for 12 hours, you start to get a little bit hangry. So there's all these little things that play into being on a council. It's a 4-year term where you might not have had any relationship with these people prior to. But by the time you finish this 4-year term, or in the case, if amalgamation goes forward, it's a 1-year term, you will form strengths and friendships that you never thought were there before. Good example is past Mayor Bill Robertson of Okotoks and Councillor Ed Sands of Okotoks. 25-year friendship based on not knowing each other from a hole in the ground to a great friendship right up until the end. Just this last year, Bill passed away. That being said, I really look forward to working with the next group. I feel honored that I was acclaimed. And I really look forward to working with all of you, respecting all of your opinions. And I hope you'll do the same for your fellow councillors, whoever they may be. So with that, Wilkie, I'll give it back to you, and let's see some questions.
Thanks, Mayor Crane. So I'm going to put the spotlight back on the candidates here, and just make sure that they are front and center in this discussion. So what we're going to do is, I've got a speaking order for introductions. I'm going to put that speaking order in the chat right now, just so that everybody can see that. We drew that randomly at the beginning of this session, so that is in the chat right now. So each candidate has up to 5 minutes to sort of introduce themselves, tell their story. I will give you a little beep on the 5-minute session. I'll give you a little beep at 30 seconds left, and we'll give you a heads up. You can take up to 5 minutes to introduce yourself. So the first person on that speaking list is Mr. Garry Raab. So Mr. Raab, do you want to go ahead and start your 5 minutes now?
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me clear. I don't know if I drew the short straw or the long straw, but according to the games of chance, I finished first today, so I get to speak first. So that's good or bad, I'm not sure. Thank you, Jamie Wilkie, for organizing this and inviting all candidates to this forum. It's our only opportunity. It's a great opportunity. Thank you so much. I'd also like to say that Jamie didn't have to do this. He doing this out of the goodness of his heart, but more importantly, he's doing it because of his commitment to Turner Valley and to democracy, and he loves doing it, and he's great at it. You'll see the professional skills come through loud and clear. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a resident. My wife and I have been residents here since 2009. I'm a retired educator, about half the time as a biology teacher and half the time as a vice principal. I try to be involved with every community I've ever lived in, and that was 3 major communities since I graduated from university. I always get involved. Here, I'm involved in the Lions Club. I'm actually the past president of it, past member of the Lions Spray Park. So the Spray Park, which is good and bad some days, is Barry Crane and some others, and myself included. Member of the golf course, although my golf game needs work. Member of the Royal Canadian Legion, and I'm married, father of 2 sons and a grandfather of 3. 4 years ago, I decided to run because I just felt taxes were too high and something had to be done about it. I wanted to see if I could figure out how. So I really had 4 goals 4 years ago, and they were, affordability, see what we can do for taxes, reducing taxes, establishing a budget committee, continuing with amalgamation. I had that 4 years ago, and I still believe in it, and improve transparency and communication to the residents. I believe when I look at the checklist, I think we did a pretty good job as a council. We held taxes steady for 4 years. We have a finance advisory committee. It's operative, it's functional, it's got community members involved, and I think it's more transparent than it ever was before I ran for council. Communication, I think, is better. Mayor Crane is always on there, and he's pretty humble when he says he doesn't like doing it. He loves doing this, and he's great at it. So, and he's a great advocate, and he is the spokesman for council. He says he's just a councillor. He is the councillor in the sense that he is a spokesman for our council. We were successful with amalgamation discussions. It's going to the minister, so let's see how it shakes down. We adopted a new land use bylaw, which is hopefully business friendly. That's what it's all about, and I think we need to be open for business. We did our best to manage COVID, which nobody would have expected when I ran for council in 2017, and there is no playbook for this one. It's just do the best you can. And work on Sunset. Thank God it's almost complete, because anybody lived over here, Jamie and myself, and know it's just not fun trying to get around through all these back alleys and detours and dust and everything else. So I always think the best predictor of future successes is past performance, and as a council, I think we did a good job. And you notice I say we, because I had plans. I was going to do this, that, and everything else. But at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about what council did. When I speak for what's been accomplished, it's not me. It's what council has done. And I was just one of the voices on council. And I really love working with the crew I work with. What motivates? So why am I running now? What motivates me now? Well, I still think there's lots of unfinished business. First of all, fiscal responsibility needs to be top and forefront always, as far as I'm concerned. If amalgamation happens, and I assume will, aligning our two municipalities is going to be a major initiative. So it'll take a lot of work. Asset management plan. We've been, you can talk to Cindy Holladay about that. We've been working on that for a couple of years. It's still not there, but it needs to be there. And probably what's my biggest driver for this one, perhaps my biggie, is the West End Sewage Commission. I've been on that commission for 4 years because when you're on for the full term. We are doing about a $16 or $17 million sewage upgrade just north of Rona. It's huge. And if for little towns, that's a lot of money. Now, of course, we get grants, etc. But because I've been on it, I just kind of feel like it's something I'd like to see to the finish. And it's going to be done next year. At least that's the plan anyway. We need to go negotiate with the golf course and see if we can get a continuous loop around their communities. We need to support business development. We need to continue to fund Arrowhead Park and the other parks and access road trails. So why me? Well, I think I have lots of experience from the last few years, and I also have lots of experience from a 37-year education career. So I think I hope you consider that as well. I believe the future for Turner Valley is very bright. I'm hopeful that the council elected in 2023 will continue to look for efficiencies. And based on financial reports that we've seen elsewhere, their efficiencies can be done. We got a world-class distillery, award-winning brewery, notable.
That's 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes, Mr. Rob. Sorry.
It sounds like I'm done then.
Thank you, Gary. We're going to move on to the next speaker in our list, which is Mr. John Waring. John, go ahead. Your 5 minutes start now.
Yeah, hi. First of all, Jamie, thanks for doing this. It's a great achievement in such a short time, and I appreciate also all the candidates managing to make it tonight. It's good to see you all face to face finally, and wish you all the best of luck, of course. As you can tell by my accent, I'm originally from England. We came out to Canada in 1980. And I was the project manager for the construction of the dredged islands offshore in the Canadian Beaufort Sea. My background, I'm a mechanical engineer and a marine engineer. I've been involved in project management and business development for many years and in many countries on a worldwide basis. When we moved to Turner Valley in 2005, two main reasons. We loved the location and the rural lifestyle. And the bonus was there was a golf course here. It's a safe and friendly community, and we've never regretted coming here. Our family, unfortunately, are not so close. Our son and his wife and the baby Gino, who many of you might have seen on my Facebook page, live in Manhattan, New York. And yeah, it's a difficult, especially with the COVID situation, to keep together. And also we have family in England. Wherever we've lived, both my wife and I have always been involved as much as possible in the community, whether it was Nigeria, whether it was Botswana, whether it was Canada. We've always volunteered to help on committees and boards, and we always like to get involved in organising events in the community. We both play golf, we love walking and being outdoors. And many of you might have seen us walking on the Friendship Trail and the many pathways in our area. Having been on council for the past 7 years, I'm standing for re-election because I truly believe in continuity and the knowledge being available so that we can complete the amalgamation process of our two towns. Transition is going to be a very important role for administration, who are going to need as much support as is possible from councillors. I personally have been involved in amalgamation discussions since 2015. The FAM, Friendship Agreement meeting, had sort of come to a point, a hiatus, if you like, that we've put together many shared services. We've done a lot together with Black Diamond, and it was time to move to the next level. And the next level was amalgamation. So between 2015 and 2017, when the new council was elected, we worked very hard with both communities, with a consultant, to start this process. When the new councils got together in 2017, there was a hiatus because everybody's new. They've got to learn the ropes. They've got to get their acting gear, if you like, do their training. And it took a while before we were able to get back on the path for amalgamation. But everybody's worked very hard together, and the ministers had our application, and hopefully we'll get something positive from them early in the new year. My priorities as a councillor, and will be my priorities as we move forward if I'm lucky enough to be re-elected, is first of all developing and working as a team. We've got to look at improving our economic development. We've got to improve our parks, pathways and recreation facilities. We have to be fiscally responsible, accountable, and our service delivery has to concentrate on needs over wants. My only promise to you is that I will work hard to ensure the needs of our municipality, residents and businesses are met to the best of my ability. I'm not going to promise I'm going to lower taxes. I'm not going to promise I'm going to build a rec centre. I'm just going to promise I'm going to work hard for you. And the few minutes that's left, you can give them back to Mr. Raab because he was in full flight when he ended. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Waring. Unfortunately, we'll just take the time back for questions towards the end. So next up is Mrs. Cindy Holloway. Holladay, sorry. Lana isn't even here, and here I am screwing up names. So, Ms. Holladay, you are next in the randomized order. You have 5 minutes starting now.
Thanks so much, Jamie, and thanks everyone for coming tonight. For those of you who are new to Turner Valley since last election, welcome, great decision. My family moved to Turner Valley from High River 9 years ago when my husband started as an administrator at the Turner Valley Elementary School. And we instantly fell in love with Turner Valley. And although my husband was transferred, FSD transferred him back to High River, we've established strong roots here, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. I love being part of the close-knit community. I have 3 girls and a boy, and we love living on the Sheep River and going to the library and the pool and being out and about on the parks and pathways. 4 years ago, I campaigned on 3 things. They sound pretty similar to Councillor Raab, that's why we get along. Cost efficiency, collaboration, and communication. So tonight I hope to report back on how we've done and highlight my hopes for the next term. Before having kids, I earned my Bachelor of Commerce degree, majoring in accounting at the University of Alberta, and I worked for a large public accounting firm, and I specialized as a certified fraud examiner. So finances are definitely my thing. There's a huge amount of public information available and lots that can be learned from looking at other communities and as well as our own, background historical information. And I've really spent a lot of time over the term learning and studying this. And I've used my background to help my fellow councillors with their financial questions and making sure that we had the best information available when we were making decisions. I've worked really hard to improve our budget process, to increase transparency, the new finance committee, which residents asked for last election. I've strongly pushed for efficiencies. We have held taxes steady, and that's been with about 6% inflation over the past 4 years. And I've strongly supported our asset management project, and I really want to be around to see that finished because I think it's going to help a lot with our long-term financial planning. Our council has always been very conservative approving capital projects. We knew that sunset was coming up, and we wanted to make sure that it could be done with as little debt as possible. So really, over the last 4 years, if we've approved critical infrastructure projects, things that improved health and safety, or things that would help save us money in the long term. But we've been very conservative with our spending in regards to capital projects, and I think Sunset was a success. We've also changed so that all of our RFPs and RFQs for those projects are always linked on the main web page on the TEM website. That's something that I know I heard on North Steps last election, that we need to be more transparent with bids when it comes. So we've made, lots of steps with the finances of the town and been really cognizant of what we're doing with taxpayers' money. When it comes to collaboration, Amalgamation is really the ultimate example, and we're going to discuss that lots later tonight for sure. But we've also spent a lot of time getting our council, our staff, our committees, neighboring municipalities, and our businesses and volunteer groups working together in a variety of ways. And this has really led to a lot of creative solutions, and we've been able to get more done with less money because of the collaboration. River recreation and access is something we've heard residents really want, and the new park area is going to deliver on this, and we're hoping the community is going to get involved. And I look forward to being part of that over the next few years. As far as communication goes, as a parent of 4 school-age kids, I know how hard communication can be. Teachers can send notes home in the agenda and flyers and email reminders and post it on websites and school calendars, and my kids will inevitably show up on school class picture day in their oldest, ugliest t-shirt and barely brushed hair because somehow I missed it. So I've learned there's no such thing as over communication, and we focused on this a lot as a council. We know everyone's busy and it's hard to reach everyone, and so we're constantly trying to be more effective. During our meetings, we're always asking for things to get added to the entrance signboard, posted on our website or Facebook, and included in the next mayor's message. Video recording and posting all our council meetings was actually one of the first motions in our first council meeting of the term, which has turned out great for COVID. Also, at our direction, our town website got a facelift. We've always been talking about having information 2 clicks away for residents. And we also have some new signage on order, which is going to go up around town in the new year to help residents and visitors navigate around town. So lots of things. I'm really proud of what.
Councillor Holladay.
Awesome. I'm super excited and proud of what we've accomplished thus far. The learning curve obviously was very steep for a first term, but I'm really looking forward to helping the new councillors as they come on, getting them up to speed quickly. And I personally have pushed for stronger training, so I'm excited to see that come together. I think I've proven myself to be 110% committed to serving residents, so hopefully I can make it on your list.
And that's time. Thank you, Councillor Holladay. Next up on our list is going to be Gunnar Pearson. So Gunnar, over to you for 5 minutes if you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit about why you're running, and that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Jamie. Like everybody said, we all appreciate you setting this up, and I want to thank the people that have joined us to watch this. My name is Gunnar Pearson. I was born in the Holy Cross Hospital many, many years ago, and pretty much grew up in the Longview area. We actually moved there for my schooling because the teachers in Calgary went on strike at the time, and my parents wanted to make sure me and my brother both went to school next year. Not sure if they figured we needed the education or just to get them out of their hair. So either way, it worked for them. I went to high school in Oilfields, grew up there. With my dad running a heavy equipment company, owning it. When I had holidays and weekends and time off school, I was always with him. So I could actually run heavy equipment, which is probably the biggest reason why it took me a couple times to get my driver's license, because I'd already developed the bad habits from sitting in the equipment. So with that, I believe that adds to my experience that I'm going to bring, just because it teaches you a lot about logistics on making sure that you plan ahead, so you have a good plan going in so you can execute it, rather than doing things 2 or 3 times, because as my dad says, you only get paid to move dirt once. So after that, I started different other jobs during the off season for heavy equipment. I've built houses, I've done security for concerts, taxes, an accountant. I was a financial guy for a while, which actually led to me to doing taxes, because I had a lot of financial clients that were asking me more and more about taxes. And once you start getting to a certain level, CRA says, well, you got to pick a side. So I picked a side, started going to taxes, and I think CRA's regretted it a few times, because the people I've talked to actually had to admit that they were wrong and my filings were right. So they had to correct them on their end. Since we moved to Turner Valley, we moved here when our girls were 2. We were previously living in Okotoks. I got twin girls, so they're now in grade 3. We moved to Turner Valley. We were determined to either move to Black Diamond or Turner Valley for the schooling. And with some of the friends that I had, Turner Valley just seemed like a better option for the schooling system that we wanted to put our girls in. and we've been glad to be here ever since. Part of the reason why I'm running is due to COVID. We had to make the decision that either me or my wife had to be home. My wife manages 2 medical clinics, one full-time and one kind of part-time off and on when she has to for the same owners. It just made more sense for me to make that transition and go into doing my taxes and bookkeeping full-time so I could be here for them. So when they come home from school, they have a parent here. And at this time, had some other people that were asking me different things about the amalgamation, because when it first came up, I said, well, I wonder if this is going to go through again. Like, I'd been hearing about amalgamation between these 2 towns since I was in high school, and that was many, many years ago. So I just started looking at it, and I was getting some of the information. As the other counselor said, the information's there, but some people just didn't know how to find it, or some people just didn't know how to do it, where with my background, I always start with financial pages. You can get a lot of answers there. So I just had it, and people were like, well, you should run. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm running. I want to make sure that we stay financially sound moving through forward, make sure that this transition, that people have the information and the education so they don't have to find it if we can give it to them in a little more blunt form. I'm all about accountability and transparency. When I was a financial guy, just to teach people more, because I've always liked to teach people and educate people, I used to run a seminar called Redneck Logic to Finances. And it was just to teach them kind of in the terms that they could, because when I started learning about it, there was all these people using these words, these acronyms that they knew, but they didn't realize that some people just didn't know and they had to play catch up. So that's why I did that. The other reason why is me and my wife made a decision a couple of years ago, we're staying here. We don't have any plans on moving out of Turner Valley. So why not help my community? You know, that's pretty much the reason I'm running. So what I'm going to be running on, like as Cindy said, which I'm so glad that I voted for her last year for the exact same things that we have in common, is financial responsibility, transparency, looking at what we can optimize and trying to always find more efficiencies. So thank you.
Thanks, Gunnar. I love when I don't have to get the hook out, so you timed that fantastically. So thank you for that. Next up in our rotation is Mrs. Hazel Martin. So Ms. Martin, you've got 5 minutes, and that starts now. Oh, Hazel, sorry, I can't hear you. There you are. Perfect.
Thank you, Jamie, for organizing this event. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen and fellow candidates. My name is Hazel Martin. I was born at the Turner Valley Municipal Hospital, and I was raised in Black Diamond. After graduating from the Oilfields High School, I entered into the oil and gas industry, and this is where I met my husband, Gene, and Turner Valley became our home to where we raised our 3 children. My husband's roots actually go back to about 1931 when his family first came here, so we're long rooted into Turner Valley. And my husband and I were both fortunate enough to have been able to work within our community. Volunteering in Turner Valley has always been very important to me. I began volunteering when our children were young and started out with helping out with their sports teams, and then helped with parent and school council, church boards. And then as I got older, I went on to the Turner Valley Discovery Day Committee, Friends of the Turner Valley Pool Society, Turner Valley Triathlon, and presently right now I sit on the executive for the Sheep Creek Arts Council. Now, I was employed with the town of Turner Valley for 25 years. I started out reading water meters, and then the opportunity came to organize community events such as Discovery Days and the New Year's Eve party. And the last 2 years, I helped in administration support for all the departments before I retired in August. Now, during my time with the town of Turner Valley, this is where I learned so much about municipal government, and I am so thankful. So given my recent retirement, I thought this would be a good, perfect time for me to throw my hat in the ring to run for council. I want to give back to the community in which I love, and I know that my unique perspective on town operations gives me an excellent knowledge to know how to serve and represent the people of the community. My aim is to see our communities thrive as we grow, and I hope our residents will be happy with the changes that are made to improve their lives and welcome new businesses to our community. I want for future development to demonstrate how our town is a special place to live, work, visit, while still maintaining that small town feel that sets us apart from larger communities. Now, the 2021-2022 term will be a transition year before our communities become one, the Diamond Valley. I'd like to take this time to say thank you to our council for giving their blessings and moving forward with curbside recycling or organic waste program. And so the next council will be looking at options for the Oilfields Recycle Center. And I would like to see our recycle center turned into an eco center of where electronics, paint cans, oil containers, batteries, etc., can be taken on a regular basis. Pathways, again, thank you to the Public Works team for completing the Robert Street pathway. It's excellent. And I would like to see pathway connectors to connect neighborhoods and provide River Valley access to residents via the Riverview Park. And I would love to have this opportunity to be able to guide us into the future towards prosperity that will last for generations to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. Again, perfect timing. I love it. I appreciate that. Next up in our rotation is Mr. Jonathan Gordon. Jonathan, you have 5 minutes, and that starts now.
All right. Thank you so much, Jamie, for hosting this event. And I want to thank the other candidates for kind of transitioning to this online event and recognizing the restrictions set by our Chief Medical Officer. I am Jonathan Gordon. I'm a returning councillor, hopefully seeking re-election for this second term. I want to thank the residents of Turner Valley for electing me in 2017. I came to this community in 2014 to really support my mom and dad. I'm one of those guys that have my parents living in my basement. It's a nice basement apartment, but I believe in aging in place and have given my parents that opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity. Since we've lived here, my son has graduated from oil fields. My daughter bought a house across the street and runs a licensed registered daycare. So we're here to stay and we've enjoyed our time here. As I've said, I thank you, the residents, for electing me in 2017. I've enjoyed being your voice in council chambers, in our joint friendship agreement committee with our counterparts in Black Diamond. It's been a privilege to be your voice in the Intermunicipal Economic Development Committee, in Community Futures Highwood, and also in our Foothills Regional Emergency Services Commission and on our Emergency Advisory Committee. Representing residents, businesses, and our emergency services has been an honor. The first duty of a councillor, according to the MGA, is to consider the welfare and interest of the municipality as a whole, and to bring council's attention to anything that would promote the welfare or interests of the municipality. It is my firm belief that this council has done just that. In 2018, we established 4 strategic priorities to guide our work of setting direction. In the first place, our first strategic priority was excellence in governance. That has been fulfilled. We've seen the Finance Advisory Committee established, the Governance and Priorities Committee established, as well as excellent transparency and communication regarding council decisions. In the second place, our second priority was the optimized service delivery and fiscal responsibility. We held taxes for 4 years. We added curbside collection of recyclables and organics. We reviewed and amended our water rates to reflect cost recovery and establish reserves. We have an asset management plan report on the docket, and we've invested in sunset infrastructure. Our third strategic priority was community development and growth management. I spearheaded and chaired the Intermunicipal Economic Development Committee. We have established strategic priorities. We have delivered a marketing plan, and our investment guide is ready to be published before the end of this year. Also, I persuaded council to complete the land use bylaw update, and council worked to remove red tape, permitted signage, parking restrictions removed, increasing how many visitors can attend our home-based businesses. We added a riverside park. We increased our pathway system with the addition of a pathway from Robert Street down to Oculta. And our fourth strategic priority, to be a destination community, I believe we've laid a great foundation for that. In fact, Still Standing is in 7th position for the Turner Valley episode. That's how much we've grown our destination community. Much has been accomplished, but much remains to complete. I believe continuity at this time is critical. With amalgamation on the horizon, and by the way, I fully support it, and I'll speak to that in just a moment, we need a dedicated council to continue the work we've started. I ask that you will vote for me again so that I may continue to strive for fiscal accountability. We are stewards of your taxes and your services. We need to make wise investments such as we did with Sunset. We need to complete a comprehensive asset management plan, and we need to continue with budget spending that makes sense. Secondly, I support economic development. Business retention and expansion is the driver of rural economic growth. I want to continue to remove restrictions. It's not just red tape reduction anymore. It's time to roll out the red carpet. I want to see our home-based businesses supported. Local entrepreneurs need to be encouraged to start up and do the work here in town. I hope to build on our open for business culture. And finally, I want to focus on our young people.
Yep.
What that means, I'm not certain, but I want to see us start a youth action committee. I want to hear from them. What are their interests? What are their needs? I'd love a community hall for them, but is that what they're looking for? How about job creation? Things like this. So as we move forward into this next term, hopefully it'll be just a short term of 18 months or less. We need to have a great foundation that's been set now. We need to build upon that and set the stage for an effective amalgamation. I ask that you please vote for Jonathan Gordon. Thank you.
Right to the wire, Councillor Gordon. Thank you for that. Next up on our list is Mr. Wayne Hill. Wayne, you've got 5 minutes. Tell us a little about yourself and why you're running. Thank you. Sorry, Wayne, you're muted. I think you should be able to unmute yourself here.
Yeah, I've got it
Perfect.
now. Thanks
I'm
going
to restart your timer. That's 5 minutes again.
All right, no problem. So yeah, thanks to everybody joining in. Thanks for all the councillors currently, as well as the other candidates that we're competing with each other for. I hope to treat it not so much as a competition, but as many hats trying to get into the same ring to achieve the same goals. We're all trying to determine the best course of action for Turner Valley. We're all trying to embrace the amalgamation process that's coming in. I want to say that I too am deep rooted in Turner Valley. My great grandparents owned a store here. My grandparents lived here, raised a couple of their kids. My aunt was born at Turner Valley Hospital. My parents moved me back here in 1992. I attended C.N. McLaren, finished high school in oil fields. My 2 adult children also completed their high school years in oil fields, and our 9-year-old attends Turner Valley. She's a Turner Valley Tiger. She'll be following in our footsteps as well. So we are deep rooted here as well. I have young families with kids in mind when it comes to my campaigning. I really enjoy the progress that the current council has made, and I look to make no changes. I fully support everything that's been going on, and I just wanted to get on board so I too could help be a part of the change, be a part of the growth. Economic growth is also an important forefront opportunity in my mind. I see Turner Valley as almost a slate of a blank canvas, to say the least. I see a lot of opportunity coming to town. I've also had a few conversations that also suggest maybe we could be the residential quadrant in the amalgamated community, with Black Diamond being the industrial commercial quadrant. Regardless of how things play out, there's a bright future ahead for everybody in town, in towns. I've enjoyed raising my kids here. I grew up happy and healthy here as well. It's a beautiful place to be. I want to participate. I want to learn from the councillors that are sitting and potentially be reelected. I really enjoy planting my roots, and I just want to continue to be part of the momentum here. I don't want to be long-winded about a lot of this stuff. We'll wait for some questions and answers to come along, but that's a bit about me. I'm a resident since '92, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to be a part of the council should the people choose to vote me in. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, everybody, for listening to my short little period here, and hopefully we can talk some more as we move forward. I'll leave some time for the guys behind me.
Thanks so much, Wayne. Appreciate that. And next up on our list, sorry, I have way too many windows open. We've got Mr. Richard Brotherston. So Richard, you've got 5 minutes to tell a little story about why you're running and who you are. So Richard, if you unmute yourself, your 5 minutes will start now.
All right. Thanks, Jamie, for hosting this, and to all the other candidates and incumbents here. A little bit about myself. I moved here about 3 years ago. I'm originally from, I guess, Winnipeg. To begin with, I kind of grew up in the military, so moved around the country quite a bit, ended up in Winnipeg. My career kind of took numerous kind of career paths. I've done quite a few over the years. I guess mainly I would probably say that hotel management for a couple of decades in the latter part of the last century. I did that, morphed that into IT work for the hospitality industry, and kind of did that by running around North America, converting hotel software and that kind of stuff. In 2001, I moved to Calgary. Met and married my wife, and started a career in the information technology sector in the oil and gas. So did that up until probably 2017, when I was retired. I guess forcefully retired. It was a good thing, and so I retired and decided to kind of seek new adventures. Kind of lived in South Calgary for a while. Was kind of looking to get out of the city, and ended up looking at communities in which I could find that new adventure and a nice warm community in which to live in. And I chose Turner Valley. Been here for 3 years now. And when I got here, like Garry Raab said, I was kind of shocked about taxes here. Didn't really realize that the taxes were that way. I started to kind of get really involved and thought that I'd like to kind of be involved with municipal government. So I spent a fair bit of time sort of kind of watching the goings on of council. Was very impressed with the current council and how they conducted themselves, and some of the things that they had done. The collaboration between them was very cohesive, and I think it was enjoyable to watch. I've learned a lot, and so I'm hoping to kind of give back and learn a lot from them as well. Part of what I've done when I've been out here is got involved with a business in Black Diamond, Hard Knock Story, so I'm sure you've probably seen me around there. So I'm very busy with that business as well. I also volunteer at the Turner Valley Golf Course, where I've seen John Waring quite often, Garry Raab as well. And the other ones I haven't really seen, but this is sort of the end of this year. So maybe next year I'll see you on the course. Yeah, amalgamation is first and foremost, I believe, in this election. Reason that I kind of got into it was to kind of get my feet wet. I kind of felt that this was going to be a short term. This is sort of a stepping stone for me. I didn't know how I was going to kind of transition into it should I get elected. And I think this is just a perfect way of doing it. So I look forward to working with all of the council that gets elected. And I do hope that all of the incumbents, Barry and everybody else, including the town administration and stuff, would be could help me to learn and grow in that position should I be elected. So thank you very much. I look forward to this forum and answering any questions people have. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. I've definitely been into Hard Knocks, but unfortunately, young children have prevented me from golfing as much as I would prefer to. So I'm also hoping that I'll see you next year as well. Last up on our list is Mr. Curtis Dixon. So Curtis, if you're able to unmute yourself, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Wow, tough group to follow. Thanks, guys, for all that. That was wonderful. I'd like to start by saying congratulations to Mayor Crane for being acclaimed. I'm thrilled to see you leading our community for another term. And thank you to Mr. Wilkie for putting this forum together for all of us. And thank you to all the current councillors for all you have done in council. You have set the bar high for any of us newbies who may get elected to the next council. Hello, residents of Turner Valley and fellow candidates. My name is Curtis Dixon, and I'm asking for your vote for a seat on Turner Valley Town Council. A number of folks out there are already familiar with me, but for those of you that are not, let me give you some insight into who I am. I am 51 years old and have been a proud Main Street business owner and resident here in Turner Valley for over 6 years. I was born and raised in Manitoba, and in 2010, after a 10-year career in technology in the public education sector, I returned to college. I moved to Alberta in 2012 to complete my studies in wireless communications engineering. My partner Kim and I have a daughter, Abby, who is 9 years old and currently attends grade 4 in Turner Valley Elementary. She has been a student there since kindergarten. We came to Turner Valley from Calgary in 2015 and opened the Country Store Diner. I like to support local organizations whenever I can, and I have helped to create a number of special events for our community. I am proud to say I was instrumental in starting a slow pitch ball league here, and some of you may remember the old-fashioned street dance I put on a few years back. By all accounts, it was a hit with residents, and I hope to be able to bring that event back in the near future. I have over 20 years experience in technology and administration and have experienced amalgamations twice during my career working with school divisions in Manitoba. I feel that my background and training in information technology could open up new areas of potential growth for our community. And I have experiences and knowledge that I feel would serve the citizens and town council very well moving through amalgamation. Most notably, I was director of technology for a school division from 2005 to 2010, where I worked closely with a school board from the onset of being amalgamated. I was directly responsible for leading the technology team that implemented a long-term shared high-speed communication system to 14 communities within the divisional catchment area. And I currently sit on the Oilfield Sports Association board as vice president, and I am past president of the Diamond Valley Chamber of Commerce. And as a small business owner in town for the past 6 years, I believe I could add a valuable perspective to council. I have wanted to be part of municipal government for a long time and look forward to the experiences being a councillor would bring me. I am excited about the opportunities to learn and understand the complexities of municipal governance. I consider myself to be a hard worker, and I'm not afraid to take on big tasks. I understand the commitment and amount of work required with being on council and would put in extra effort to excel in this role. I am very thorough when approaching projects that I take on and pride myself in a job well done. I often stay on task and work out at the outcome until it is perfected. I believe in the importance of understanding all of the angles of a given situation and will pursue as much information as possible in order to make informed decisions. I look forward to working with the other members of council if elected and welcome the opportunity to grow as a team and utilize all of our strengths to form an effective and productive government. I enjoy a good debate and welcome the opportunity to learn from my peers. I am always open to new ideas and opposing views. I believe in being accountable to the citizens of our community and would work hard to maintain their trust while performing my duties as councillor. When considering budgets, taxes, and delivery of services, I would strive to maintain a balance and work diligently to keep spending and taxation at the lowest possible levels. I will evaluate every opportunity to lessen the burden of taxation and cost of services on our citizens and will pursue all options to lower expenditures and find efficiencies wherever possible. I will work hard to better our community every chance I get and will look to find ways to bring new opportunities for growth into our business sector. I want to draw on the experiences and the knowledge that I have accumulated and give back to the community in a way that will be of benefit now and for the future. If elected to town council, I will bring forth a commitment of accountability, informed decision-making, and responsible financial management. My name is Curtis Dixon, and thank you for your consideration.
Curtis, thank you very much. Extremely well-timed as well. So I always appreciate that. I don't like the hook as much as it might seem like I do. I definitely don't. So thank you for everybody. Hopefully that gave you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the candidates. I am going to move into resident questions very shortly here, but I did have one question that was front of mind for me. I am not running this time, so I get to ask some questions as well. The matter that's probably nearest and dearest to my heart heading into this term of council is the issue of amalgamation. So I wanted to ask one question just to kick things off here, and it is around that question of amalgamation. And the question for all candidates is, and each candidate will have 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes to respond to this question. It is based on what you've read to date or participated in for those who may have been party to the conversations. With regards to the amalgamation process, what's your opinion of the amalgamation with the town of Black Diamond, and what, if any, actions do you plan to take if elected to either support or expedite that process, or to oppose or slow down that process of amalgamation? So starting out with a tough question, just want to make sure that everybody knows where everybody stands on that particular issue. So first up, we've got Mr. John Waring. John, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Thanks, Jamie. As I mentioned earlier, I've been involved in this process of amalgamation since 2015. It's something that's very close to my heart. When we first moved to Turner Valley in 2005, I think they were talking then about amalgamation for the 30th or 40th time. There was it's 2007, there was a vote on it. Turner Valley overwhelmingly in support, and Black Diamond not so much so. There were reasons for this that we don't need to go into at the moment. I'm very much in favor of amalgamation. I can see the benefits of amalgamation, having been on 2 of the critical committees during the process of the last 18 months, looking at financial, looking at community, looking at potential aid from the government, looking at the way the situation is going with government grants, police costs. Everything points to amalgamation being the way to go. What can I do to support this? I can continue doing what I've been doing since 2015 and support in council, help administration, and try to get the right information out to the residents so that they understand fully what's happening. I could pinch my few minutes from before, but I'm not going to. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Next up in our speaking order is Mr. Brotherston. Richard, you've got 2 minutes to respond to that question as well.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, I do know that amalgamation is an important subject. I am personally for it. I support it, and I'm really happy to see that both councils in Black Diamond and Turner Valley have approved this and sent it off to the Minister of Municipality. So we'll see what kind of happens. I think what's going to be important for this cycle, or this 18-month term or whatever it is that the council start to kind of look at this as a single council, even though they are 2 separate councils. So a lot of communication back and forth between the councils, between businesses, between the residents. Really, as that sort of amalgamation happens, there are certain steps that are going to be involved that need to be clearly stated, and everybody understands, so that it can actually move forward in a sort of like a trying the word I'm trying to look for, in a cohesive manner. So if both councils are acting sort of as one, it just kind of helps that when amalgamation does happen, it's going to be an easier transition. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. And next up we have Wayne Hill. Wayne, you've got 2 minutes kind of to respond to that question.
Yeah, I also have been supportive of amalgamation. Being here as long as I have, I've been hearing the rumblings of it for years and years and years. Being a youngster, a teenager, it never really had too much bearing on, what we all thought of it being one community. As kids, we always kind of just considered it one. We'd ride over to Turner Valley to go to the pool. We'd visit the old library in Black Diamond. We took advantage of everything that kind of was to offer in both towns. But since I've been reading more of the financial report to the public and what we've heard, public information papers, a lot more of the bigger questions, the bigger picture information that people were looking for, or the people that did participate in these forums were looking for, was all very cleanly and well laid out and addressed. The JFAC, or Joint Friendship Agreement Committee, has been very, very busy and productive in reviewing, discussing, and concluding many fine points regarding the financial feasibility of the undertaking of amalgamation. I believe that amalgamation would be a prosperous and long-term cost-effective move for both Turner Valley and Black Diamond. As I understand it, if there's to be an interim council, is to collectively work together with the Black Diamond Interim Council to prepare for amalgamation. And if elected, I would actively participate in the JFAC and help try to usher Turner Valley into the united municipality that awaits all of us. I've been reading some of the suggested name changes, although I'm not 100% certain that a name change is coming. I do happen to like Diamond Valley. So many businesses have embraced this name in their own titles, and it just feels like such a natural choice to me. It makes so much sense to me to combine the two towns as one. We're so close. When times are hard, for instance, the 2013, the flood, there never seemed to be a Turner Valley or a Black Diamond. It was just one community going through that by itself. And I think that would be best. It is best for everyone to jump on board and make this thing happen.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. I do hate when I have to get the hook out. You were doing fantastic there. So appreciate that. Next up, we've got Ms. Holladay. Cindy, you've got a couple of minutes.
2 minutes is tough on this one. Obviously, a huge supporter from the start, and I think this is such a golden opportunity for our towns because we're really coming together as equals. We're so similar in financial respects and population, and we already share so much. So yes, there's going to be some hiccups, and council is going to have to work hard to minimize some of the annoying issues to residents with, addresses and driver's license or whatever. But so much better now at 5,000 than waiting till 10,000 people. I know the public is mostly interested in us getting to work on combining and eliminating redundant services so we can get some cost savings, but really the next year I think is going to fly by and we have some other really important things that need to get done. My first priority, of course, would be to make sure our emergency services are fully ready for the transition. I don't want any confusion there. Second priority would be getting a really good HR consultant in place because that's the area of the most risk and would be the most damaging to make mistakes in. We really need to keep adequate institutional knowledge. Third, I would want to ensure that we have processes in place to make sure our land use applications and building permits can be done without delay upon amalgamation. We would never want to lose a business or development because we were disorganized or unclear which rules should be applied there, especially if we face some rapid growth, which we might, as at the same time that amalgamation is happening. Fourth, as a member of the Finance Committee, we had recommended that each town needs to specify what their current reserves are going to be earmarked for in the new community. So that's going to be something this council gets to work on. So that'll be interesting. And fifth would be obviously figuring out what our priorities are for harmonizing bylaws. And lastly, I think the most important is figuring out how we're going to document our success and what's happening, because what we're doing is really rare and unique, and other people are going to be looking to us. And so we need to figure out a way to document our successes and the process so we can help out other people and report back to residents. It's always a good thing.
Thanks, Cindy. That is time. So next up, we have Gunnar Pearson. Gunnar, over to you. You have 2 minutes.
So what I've been doing with the amalgamation is spending a lot of time going over the August 27th report that was on the website. And being a numbers guy, I got it in my head, I think about 3-4 days ago, just to start putting the numbers into an Excel spreadsheet and putting in a few factors to see what it's going to look like moving forward, moving back. So based on those numbers, it just agreed with everything that I've done with wanting to support, or all my opinions of supporting the amalgamation since it was first mentioned. So I've been trying to do and review those documents as much as possible so that when I do come in, well, if I come in, I should say, I know what we're looking at, what we're going to face. And the other thing that I've been doing that I think is really important, because I've always said, like, let's look beyond the amalgamation, is also been keeping a close eye on the Black Diamond elections as well, to know who and some of the people that I'd like to work with if and when I'm elected, right? There are some of the redundancies that we can do. There's, like I said in an interview that I had previously, there are some people that have had some confusions on some of the numbers that it'd be nice, like, it's there, the information's there. Some people just don't know how to read that. So I've been trying to explain that to them. And again, I have to agree with Cindy, which is not surprising to me. But emergency services is something that I want to see and have some plan in place on what we can do. I used to be on the Black Diamond Fire Department many, many years ago. And just knowing the difference in between the two departments from being inside and still knowing a lot of those guys, just wanting to see how that's going to get together and move forward. So, okay, thanks.
Thanks, Gunnar. There's no easy way to jump in and say 30 seconds without interrupting somebody. So I'll try to make it as unobtrusive as possible. Next up is Mr. Curtis Dixon. Curtis, you have up to 2 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. Amalgamation obviously is something that I do have experience with, and I'm certainly looking forward to being able to get involved with it. You know, I do see advantages to it in the long term. Short term, from my experience, it's generally a bit of a rough go. It takes some time to work through all of the details and whatnot, and again, it's the little things that catch you off guard. So I'm hoping you know, I get an opportunity to be on council and potentially use my background and knowledge to avoid some of those. My technology background obviously is another area where I hope that I will be able to contribute, and you know, as we bring the systems together, I'm assuming the systems are relatively similar at this point, but you know, there's a lot of components in regards to the technology side of two different communities trying to amalgamate together. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I definitely support it, and I hope that my background and experiences will be of value if elected to town council. Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. Next stop is over to Jonathan Gordon. Jonathan, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I noticed that there's some of our Black Diamond counterparts online, and I want to make sure I thank them for the work that they did with us in bringing us to this point of amalgamation. I'm a huge supporter. I think we need to move forward together, and together we are stronger. So what actions will I take to support the process? I plan to use our JFAC meetings to work with our Black Diamond counterparts to keep administration on track. Cindy highlighted many of the bylaws that need to be aligned, many of the services that need to be organized, least of which is our emergency services. We identified those key bylaws which need to be aligned prior to January 1st of 2023. So we'll have the opportunity to direct administration as needed. And I'm looking forward to working with those around the council table on both sides of the bridge on Highway 7. I hope to really encourage our IEDC. Our local businesses should have a say, should have a role, and I want to keep hearing from them about the importance of amalgamation, what impacts them, what differences do they see between the communities, so we can have things ready to go. As far as the work that we've done a great job in identifying features. I hope that over the course of the next year, we can begin identifying benefits. In other words, answering the question that the residents have asked me, what's in it for me? I look at that answer, what's in it for me, as I look at it today. We're going to have the ability to maintain current service levels with increased download costs from the province. That's a challenge. See our policing costs. I hope to establish reserves to meet our infrastructure needs based on an asset management plan. And who knows, maybe at the end of the day, we can even provide more services. And if we get to that place where we find those efficiencies that are there to be found, perhaps we can even begin helping out our taxpayers a little bit and lightening their wallet. I'm excited about amalgamation. I look forward to working together with the council that we move forward together and make sure that we are stronger together.
Thanks, Jonathan. Next up, we have Hazel. Hazel Martin, you are next. You have 2 minutes if you want to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. As everybody has said, we've heard about amalgamation for a number of years, and every time there would be a new study and nothing would progress. But this time around, I've sat and I've really paid a lot of attention and there have been times I have literally sat on the fence, not knowing which was the right way. But watching the JFAC meetings, I can see the benefits of us amalgamating. And with my having worked in administration, I can also see some efficiencies that can be made as we move forward. And yes, there are some duplications of services that will have to be looked at. And I know that we will need to be aligning our bylaws and also looking at some of our services of what we charge. The one thing I would like to say is that I would like to see the JFAC meetings remain open to the public so that they see the whole process, as there were times that there were a lot of in-camera sessions. And I would just like to see that because you're not always going in camera for legal, land, or personnel. So thank you very much. And yes, I do support amalgamation.
Thanks, Hazel. Next up on our list is, last but not least, Mr. Raab.
Yeah, I go from first to last. So, and by the way, Councillor Wilkie or Jamie, I'm running my own timer, so I won't have to get you to beat me this time. I was in favor of amalgamation when I ran for election in 2017. I'm even more so. I even feel stronger about it now. Sustainability is what it's all about, you guys. And our councils the past 4 years managed to hold the line on taxes. We can't do that forever. Costs keep going up, and inflation happens, etc. So, but by being a bigger municipality, we have all kinds of opportunities. What I'm going to do if I'm reelected, I'm going to support administration because they're the lifeblood of our organization, and they're the administrations are the ones that have to do the grunt work. So we need to support them. Like Curtis Dixon said, I also have some experience with amalgamation. Lac La Biche is where I was from last stop, and Lac La Biche and Lac La Biche County and Plamondon joined. There were lots of naysayers to start, but if you go talk to anybody up there right now, they say it's the best thing could have ever happened in their community. I'm also involved in education, so amalgamation is what happened, So I'm totally supportive about that. And we got lots of things to do. There's no doubt about that. Also, I think the future is very bright for our communities. By amalgamating, we're going to be more sustainable. We'll be able to reduce taxes based on other communities. And the ones we compared, Redcliffe and Bicycle, or not Bicycle, how about Didsbury? We definitely can save money, and then we can use that money for other things. Somebody mentioned a rec center, maybe so. I think the future is bright. We have a beautiful town. We're close to the mountains. We got excellent businesses. I think we could be a tourist hub if we play our cards right and we support businesses, and businesses are willing to take out of their jeans to invest in our community. I think we can be a tourist hub, and it should be awesome for us. So I look forward to nothing but great things in the future for Turner Valley. And I got 2 seconds left. Thank you.
You were right on your timer. I thought you were going to play some sort of game there, Garry. So thank you all for answering that question. What I heard around the table was general support from everybody to advance this to the best of our ability, and that's what I was hoping to hear. So now that's enough from me. What I want to do is I want to open this up to questions from the residents. So as I've kind of put in the chat a couple of times, I've got everybody muted just to we can't have crosstalks. So, but you can ask your question. All I will ask you to do is, in your Zoom menu at the bottom, there should be a button that you can click to open the chat interface. If you would like to ask a question, please just put your name, would like to ask a question, right? Jamie Wilkie would like to ask a question, and I will call on you, and I can unmute you to ask your question directly. Should you prefer to have the moderator ask a question on your behalf, please also, you can put those in the chat as well. But as I mentioned at the top of our discussion, I am going to prioritize those who go to the mic, so to speak, those that want to ask their question directly. So I'll give everybody a minute to hop in line here. Hopefully we've got some questions that are queuing up here, so we'll just give everybody 1 second to line up here. We don't have anybody chomping at the bit first. Did these councillors or did these candidates answer all of your questions? This is the opportunity now, so please take that by using the chat feature. I can ask questions too, but. Okay, I'm going to kick things off with one question of mine. If everybody else is thinking on questions right now. So my question is one around conflict resolution. A council is an interesting place to work. Folks disagree on points on a regular basis, and they can be very heated disagreements at times. For each candidate, I would like to know what your approach is to handling conflict, to handling situations where you do not agree. And for each candidate, how will you handle conflict on council and on the various committees that we may have? So I'm going to drop a speaking order into the chat here, and our speaking order is going to be as follows. So first up, Mr. Raab, don't get too comfortable. How do you handle conflict? You have 60 seconds. Thank you.
Why did I get to be first again? Anyway, good question. I've taken some training in conflict resolution. I try not to deal with it like I did when I was 18 because it may be a different result now, I would hope. I've kind of mellowed a bit through the years and hope I behave a little better. I think for me, and what I've seen this last council, we didn't agree. We disagreed lots, but it was always listened. We always listened to each other. We always respected each other. And at the end of the day, we all, I believe, worked and operated in the best interest of our community. So I think as long as you go with that, as long as you go with that pretense that you're working the best interest of citizens in your community, because as Mayor Crane said in his introduction, sometimes, you know, your eyes are opened up by discussion, by other points of view. And at the end of the day, if you listen to everybody else and you work collaboratively together to come up with a resolution for the problem, then I think that conflict is not really much for conflict. It's just, and at the end of the day, when council makes a decision, doesn't matter which side you're on, that's the decision of council. And for me, when I lost council decisions, if you like, I always knew that the decision council made, they believe was in the best interest of our community. Whether I was on that side or the other side, it didn't matter, because I think we work very well together. So that's how I hope to carry forward. It must be just about a time, correct?
You are, yeah. That was slightly over. I realized I didn't pause you with 15 seconds. So we'll give everybody a little bit of slack on this one. Next up, we are going to go with Mr. Pearson. Gunnar, go ahead. You have 60 seconds.
Hi, Jamie. Like I mentioned, I have a background in doing security, and I mean, I've done everything from high-end concerts to bouncing at some of the bars in Calgary. And whenever you have a conflict, it's always resolved the same way. First, you de-escalate it. So if there's disagreements, then as you just de-escalate it, you get to what the disagreement's about. Then you start gathering the facts about it, and you'll either change your mind or you don't. But luckily, you're gonna go through that process. And when you get through the end of that process, like Garry said, if you're working together, you're gonna come out with the best solution. You might not always agree with it, but it's hearing everybody out and trying to put forward the facts that you believe in are the most important about it, and listening to what other people say and coming to an agreement, even if you disagree. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunnar. Appreciate that. Next up on our list was Richard Brotherston. Richard, you have 60 seconds.
Thanks, Jamie. I think like any time that there's conflict resolution, it's just a matter of listening to both sides of the argument or both sides of the issue. You may not always agree, but you have to understand the other person's point of view. I think in the long run, you will come to a consensus one way or the other, and you have to live by it. But I think that you definitely have to just sort of, be calm, listen to all of the questions and people's opinions, and come to a consensus somehow. I think this council has done a great job so far in the last 4 years from what I've seen, and I hope that I can continue to, if elected, to be part of that. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Hazel. Hazel, you have 60 seconds.
Having sat on various committees, and yes, there is always at times of where you can have a disagreement, difference of opinion. But I think the biggest thing is that everybody sits and listens to what everybody's opinion is. And at the end of the day, you have to come to some form of a consensus. And sometimes you have to maybe just step away, go look for some information, and then bring that back. But the main thing is listening to everyone. And we always have to remember it is for the benefit of all of our residents, as you know, sitting on council, that we have to see it as a benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Appreciate that. So next up is Curtis Dixon. Curtis, go ahead. You have 60 seconds.
Thank you again. For me, you know, anytime I'm faced with a conflict or differences of opinions, when it gets heated, you know, I like to step away for a moment and just take a breather. Obviously, and you come back and then you listen to all of the, you know, the various points and whatnot that people are putting forward. You know, everybody has a valid opinion, and quite often, you know, somebody will have better information perhaps than I do. But at the end of the day, if something gets way heated or out of control, then for me, it's, you know, take a break, step away for a moment, go get a drink of water, and so on and so forth, and then come back. And for me, I'm quite often better able to handle such situations at that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. I need to take that advice. Just step away from it sometime. Thanks for that. Next up on our list was John Waring. John, how do you handle conflict? You have 60 seconds.
I'm sure the other councillors could answer that one for me. One of the first things you've got to remember is respect. You're having a difference of opinion with people, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't disrespect their opinions. You have to always be able to listen. Again, I can see Cindy smiling because she knows I don't always listen. You have to weigh up the possibilities, the advantages, the disadvantages. You have to be honest in your opinions. You have to make sure people understand clearly what your thoughts are, as well as paying attention to what theirs are, and together work through the complexity of the problem to come with a solution. I did a lot of negotiations with unions as part of my job, including the Teamsters in the States. So I know a little bit about conflict. Thank you.
I haven't ended up in a concrete block yet, so I feel pretty confident about that. Next up, we have Jonathan Gordon. Jonathan, you have 60 seconds.
Well, I guess we could do what we've done in the past, and that's provide anger management courses for John Waring. But in all reality, it really is about respect. And it is an issue of swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. And if we practice that around the council table, as we have in the past 4 years, we'll be doing well to avoid the conflict that comes around disagreements and handling differing opinions. So I'm a huge fan of respect. And you know the old adage, right? We have two of these and one of these. And really a lot of conflict can be overcome by just simply remaining quiet, listening, and then answering afterwards.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next up, we have Cindy Holladay. Cindy, you have 60 seconds.
Yeah, thanks. I love hard debates. 7-0 votes kind of get boring after a while, and 4-3 votes are kind of where you know that you're earning your keep. The first thing in these situations, I always remember that I have to think, am I wrong, right? Do I really have the information? Do I understand it? So that for me is number one when I'm debating hard on something is, and I'm getting pushback is maybe I am wrong. As John said, being open-minded, there have been times where I have flipped mid-debate, absolutely, because of something that somebody said that was just like the aha moment. And I think as we always focus on what's best for residents, we always seem to come to the great conclusion. And I mean, we always, as backup, we have our council procedure bylaw, we have our council code of conduct. So we've never had to really rely on those to, you know, be the bat on anybody. We had a really great culture, but they are there to help. And I think if, you know, for any newbies that come on that get elected, the first thing you need to read is the council procedure bylaw. And then just being humble and always remembering what it feels like to be when, you know, to be on the losing side of a debate, when you're on the winning side, to remember that feeling and to treat everybody with respect. So.
Thanks, Cindy. Next up, we have, last but not least, Wayne Hill. Wayne, you have 60 seconds.
Well, as a Red Seal journeyman sprinkler fitter, I spent the last 3 years up north working with other Red Seal journeyman sprinkler fitters on multiple projects, and conflict arises daily. So what we've learned really is cooperation, collaboration, and as it was always mentioned prior, is respect. The old saying is there's many ways to skin a cat. So everybody may have their own personal experience on how to attack or solve a problem. But that's the beautiful part about the council is there's 6 to 7 individuals that are able to combine their efforts, combine their knowledge, and combine their skill sets. And sometimes it just takes, you know, yourself to be the bigger person to just step back and take that breath, that drink of water, like was mentioned, let cooler heads prevail. Because at the end of the day, it is for the benefit of the town, the municipality. We are trying to do our best to work for everybody else's benefit, not our personal gains. And I think that's a great thing to always try to remember as you're trying to focus and avoid these conflicts that I'm sure do tend to happen.
Perfect. Thank you, Wayne. I was worried that people were unable to type questions in the chat because I thought there would be tons of them already, but there have been a few come in now. So first question from residents is one from Jason Martin, and the question is, how would you motivate developers or landowners to complete their projects on time and to the agreement? And so I'm going to put the speaking order in the chat in one moment, but leading off this question, we have Gunnar Pearson. You got the random draw on the first one this time. So again, I'll just repeat the question one more time and then 60 seconds to each counselor. The question was, how would you motivate developers or landowners to complete their projects on time and to the agreement?
That's a great question. I do know that over the course of some of the projects that I've worked on, most recently being the Ring Road, most things never ever get done on time or to spec. To motivate people for that, I mean, I know within the provincial mandate, you can apply fines and everything like that. Nobody ever wants to do that. It's just trying to make sure, working with them throughout the process to make sure they have what we need, the support that we can give them. If they're not sure about things, that's the only way you can really do it. For them to be motivated, it's going to come down to them. They're the boss of that project. There's only so much we can do from being on the outside. From somebody that's been on the inside, I've actually had those discussions with people that I work with. Well, why don't we do this? This will help speed this up. And it's just, you know, your opinion only goes so far. With one example on the Ring Road, they used to do these bi-weekly updates for where projects were. And it just so happened that the one project that I was working on, because I didn't really have anywhere else to put me, I was 96% ahead on the day that we were supposed to start it. So it was already done. So other than them doing the work, there's not much we can do. Thanks.
Thanks, Gunnar. Next up, we have Jonathan Gordon. Jonathan, you have 60 seconds.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Jason Martin. And that's been an ongoing concern in our town with past history, correct? I'm going to use our current situation on Sunset Boulevard as a good illustration. And it follows up a little bit about Gunnar has talked about. We can enforce fines. We can, in the contract, state if there's certain penalties, if you're not meeting target dates, you're missing completion lines. But with Sunset, what I found super effective was the actual communication and oversight. Our current project manager, Richard Beltrain, was regularly in contact with the contractors, finding out what they needed, trying to stay ahead of it as much as possible, any concerns leading forward. So I think if we are certain that we have firm contracts in place initially, we maintain a level of communication and oversight, we should mitigate some of those issues. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jonathan. Next question. So next is for Garry Raab. 60 seconds.
Thank you very much, Jamie Wilkie. Well, again, that's sort of the carrot and the stick thing here. You know, you write in the contract, you hope it's going to be honored, but there's always mitigating circumstances. So, you know, for me in life, I always think it's important to be flexible. It's always to consider all the factors that are involved. You do want a time, you know, like this particular project's a bit late sunset we're talking about. It's a big project, and this happened and that happened, and there's all kinds of mitigating circumstances. So as I say, you can find them, you can do that, but you also want to be, if you believe you want to be a good place for business, well, contractors that work here, they're business people as well. So you have to kind of, you know, be flexible, be reasonable. At the end of the day, need to get things done. If not right on time, very close to it. So I guess that's my comment.
Thanks, Gary. Next up, we have, sorry, I lost my list here already. Next up, we have Hazel. Hazel, you are next up. You have 60 seconds.
Thank you very much, Jamie. As most of you may know, that Jason is our son. And Jason went through a lot in trying to get some issues resolved with a developer that where he had built his house. It had taken a lot. He stood in front of council many a times, and I totally know where he's coming from. And sometimes it needs to be more that the town needs to do is to step in and make these developers hold true to what they have in their agreement. And I know, I do understand we do want to have development, but you cannot let residents be having to go for legal counsel because they have not been able to resolve an issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. Next up, we have Wayne Hill. Wayne.
Well, being in construction, specifically the commercial install industry in Calgary for 15 years, deadlines, project completion, those are all very familiar terms and circumstances for myself. So, you know, beyond progress reporting, definitely a slight understanding of, you know, unforeseen circumstances that do delay or hold up progress when it comes to projects. So, for instance, the Sunset Boulevard project, procurement of materials, manpower issues, weather, there are always underlying circumstances. However, like Hazel said, at a certain point, yeah, we definitely can't be allowing contractors or developers to really make their own decisions when it comes to when the deadline is going to be met. The general public tends to not really wonder how long or why things took so long. They just want it done so that their inconvenience is over. So between contracting and maybe, you know, having to implement a fine depending on the size or structure of the project, it's something that, you know, council could definitely look into trying to motivate contractors, motivate developers, and keep the public happy.
Thanks, Wayne. Next up, we have Richard Brotherston. Richard, go ahead. You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with everyone here. Like any project, it really is a lot of communication. So every, you know, stage of the project or the whatever's being done, there has to be clear communication. So if something is stalled, then it's a matter of trying to find or help the developer to try and find solutions to that, whether it be you know, those from council, those from people in the community. I do understand Jason's issue. It has been a long time for him, and I can understand his frustration in it all. But yeah, I think clear communication, trying to find solutions, and just getting sort of that everybody together to push the project forward. Maybe incentives would be something that you could do. I don't know if fines, you know, are always a negative thing. So maybe incentives of some sort to help them finish on time. That might be something you could look at. So thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Next up, we have Cindy Holladay. Cindy, you have 60 seconds.
Yeah, so land development is very different than like projects like Sunset and those kind of developments. So I'm going to focus us strictly on the land development. Our council absolutely inherited some messes when it came to development in the town, things that had started before we got on, and we spent a lot of time trying to clean things up. I'm not going to hide that for sure. Many times we were just wanting to make sure the developers didn't go bankrupt and that the project could be completed at some point. And so we had to often be lenient on time. And unfortunately, people like yourself, Jason, did get caught up in that. We haven't had the luxury of having big developers with large pockets, that could come in and get things done quickly. We've always been reliant on small projects, 10, 20 houses here and there. And unfortunately, that comes with some of these problems. So, the developers, by and large, they are motivated to get done. They don't make money until they've completed everything that they've agreed to with the town, and we sign off on it, and then they can sell their lots. So interest doesn't stop for them from the bank. That is their motivation to get things done. And yep.
All right. Next up, we have Curtis Dixon. Curtis, you have 60 seconds.
Yeah, so for me, finances is obviously the best motivator, and incentives in either side of that fence, in my opinion, a very valuable thing. In technology, particularly if we're dealing with someone to supply something for us, quite often if they are able to hit deadlines or get before them, they'll get the full value of the contract, versus if they go over the deadlines, then they lose out on some of the value of the contracts and stuff like that. So I would like to investigate it on if there are incentives that could be put forward for some of these developments. Okay.
Thanks, Curtis. Last but not least, John Waring. John, you have 60 seconds.
Often last but never least. I think we've sort of mixed the question into, it's nothing to do with projects, as Councillor Holladay mentioned. That developers and projects are complete different animals. Projects you award, you have penalties, you have bonuses, you have all sorts of different things to encourage projects to be on time. With a developer, it's a whole different ballpark. A developer comes along, he purchases the land, he puts in his application for development permit, goes through the whole process. That's when things start to go wrong, because do we have the right controls, the right penalties, the right insurance, the way to get money back if he disappears, so that we can complete the project? These are things that have been looked at by our council. The situation today, when a developer comes to the town, is he's going to be financially tied to that development, and if he disappears, his insurance is going to kick in and make up the difference. This didn't happen in the past. This council has now made it happen.
Thanks, John.
Just, hey, you owe me minutes from earlier.
They're not cumulative. I apologize for that. The next question that we have in the chat was from Ms. Laurie McCreary-Burke. It is, what is wrong with taxes? So you know where I'm coming from. I think I get most services from my municipal government, water and sewer, for example. I pay much more in taxes to the province and the feds. I certainly don't mind paying taxes for municipal services that I get. So I guess the question that I'm extracting out of there is, what's wrong with municipal taxes? So we'll throw it out to each of the candidates, as it wasn't directed at one particular candidate, with 60 seconds for each candidate. The speaking order I did put in the chat. John, we're going right back to you. So John, you have 60 seconds. What's wrong with taxes?
The biggest problem with taxes is we have to give so much of it away. We have to give it to the province. We have to give it to the schools. We have to give it to West Winds. We have to give it to this, that, and the other. And the little bit that's left, we have to try and run the town on. Taxes are just a way to pay for services, and that's all it is. Service delivery determines your taxation level. So you want more services, you pay more tax. You want less services, you pay less tax. This is assuming that council and administration have put through a budget that's cut the fat out of it and just try to create a lean, mean operating machine. So yeah, it's
15.
difficult with property tax to try to keep a town our size running with the minimum number of people contributing and having to give so much away that we can't use. Thank you.
Thanks for that, John. Next up, we have Garry Raab. Garry, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you very much. Ms. McCurry-Burke is spot on. You know, we probably get 70% of our services or more from our municipal governments and probably get 30% of the taxes. So it's a difficult ball to keep in the air. But I guess about municipal taxes, those are something we can control. Unfortunately, we don't have as much control in provincial taxes or federal taxes. Nobody likes to pay taxes, least of all not me. But my father always said when I was a kid, he said, you know what, if you're paying income tax now, so if you're paying income tax, be thankful, because at least means you got a job and you're earning a living, so be happy you can pay some taxes. But I still think we want to be an affordable and attractive community to live in. And yes, if we can do anything to make our tax burden a little less for our citizens, it's certainly an advantage. And like when we were shopping around where we were going to retire, Medicine Hat's got a lot less services, probably a lot less taxes. They're probably half what they are here, but then they're not in the foothills either. So you always look at other things, but you want to make local tax affordable. This is something we can control.
I hate to cut you off again, Garry.
I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Richard Brotherston, you're up next. 60 seconds on that question.
All right, thank you. Well, I guess the only two sure things in life are death and taxes, eh? So we have to pay taxes. The municipal taxation is something that was kind of a shock to me when I first moved out here, but I do believe that the services that we get for what we pay are probably in line. I know this council has done a great job holding taxes for the last 4 years, and I applaud them for that. And I think that services, you know, we need to look at services in a way that helps everybody get what they want for the taxes that they're paying. So yeah, I think it's just up to council to actually look at each individual service, see where they can either improve it or find cost savings in it and that kind of thing, and give you a more or better services for your tax dollars. Thank you.
You're still muted, Jamie.
After I gave such an eloquent introduction to Hazel. Hazel, you're up next. Hazel, you have 60 seconds.
I'm with Richard. There's two sure things in life, death and taxes. And, you know, for a municipality of our size, we only have, you know, there's only so many residents and your tax base, as Garry Raab said, you know, a lot of it does go to the school board, West Winds, and other areas. Myself, we live in an older home, and you know, the services we get, we're very happy with, and our taxes are affordable. You know, I've done some comparison of other communities, same type of size, and they're paying the same as us. So yes, I do always believe that, and this council did control, did financial controlling taxes, and I'm happy for that. So thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. Next up, we have Jonathan Gordon. Jonathan, you have 60 seconds.
Hey, Lori, thanks so much for that question. You know, in reality, if the federal government closed down tomorrow, we might feel it 6 to 8 weeks from now. If the provincial government closed down, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. But if the municipal government closed down, we'd feel it tomorrow, where our water, our sewer, and other services would be directly impacted by that. So honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say there's anything wrong with taxes. We have excellent services in our wonderful town of Turner Valley, and I think they are affordable. But the reality is, are there efficiencies that we can find in delivering those services? I'm not about to suggest we lower our services to lower taxes, but I'm a big fan of making sure we're accountable in delivering those. And that's why we will have a service level review as soon as possible.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'll pocket those 15 seconds. Gunnar Pearson, you're up next. You have 60 seconds.
So as a guy that does personal corporate taxes, when I read her question, I read it as a little different. It's almost like Lori doesn't mind paying a little more taxes. So the question is, well, what's wrong with increasing them? Well, as I've taught many people over the course of doing taxes for them, taxes are great. You pay the taxes to get the services that you want on a municipal level. We do it on the federal and provincial as well with the income tax. The question is, we don't ever want to pay any more taxes than what we have. So as our services increase, the price goes up. There's one of two ways to deal with that. You either raise taxes, which nobody really wants to do, or you try to expand the city or the town. And that's one of the things that I think everybody here has mentioned, that they do like the idea of growth. So there's nothing wrong with taxes. We just have to make sure on the billing side and what we're paying out, we make that as efficient and optimized as possible. Because it's not always a tax problem, it's more of a spending problem. I'm sure many people have heard over the years. So that's the way I look at it. And I love the question. I was excited when I read it. So thank you.
Thanks, Gunnar. Next up, we have Wayne Hill. Wayne, you have 60 seconds to respond to that question.
Well, like many of these things have been mentioned prior to my turn here, but I agree. It appears that the previous council has done a great job of doing the tax freeze. I'm sure inevitably when the taxes do go up, the residents will see that the freeze was definitely the right move and it was well performed. As I'm learning, you split up the pie chart of how taxes are delivered, and unfortunately, the smaller piece of the pie does go back to our services. It goes to the bigger pieces go to organizations beyond what we're actually utilizing in town. So continuing to get the best out of the services that we do provide, our roads and grounds, our parks and rec, I think is going to be stretching those tax dollars to make the best. But I agreed with the curbside recycling project that went ahead. That couldn't have been free. That I'm expecting in addition to that. So yeah, I mean, let's just keep that ball rolling and try to utilize those tax dollars to the best of our abilities to keep everybody happy.
Thank you, Wayne. Next up, we have Cindy Holladay. Cindy, you have 60 seconds.
Yeah, everyone's been very clear. There's nothing wrong with taxes if you're getting great services, but we do have one very simple math problem in Turner Valley and Black Diamond that we struggle with, and it is the fact that we are 92 to 93% commercial or residential, and only that 78% commercial tax base. In order to be ideal, you'd want to get down to more like an 80-20 split, and that would provide a lot of relief to residents if we could increase our commercial, our tax base. It's really a simple math problem. There's lots of towns that enjoy that benefit, and they can offer much lower taxes. So that's quite simply the one thing that is wrong here that everybody really notices on their tax bills. But absolutely, there's nothing wrong with taxes that provide great services. So.
Thanks, Cindy. Next up, last for this round, Curtis Dixon. Curtis.
Well, first of all, thanks to everybody for allowing me to be able to say what they said. What is wrong with taxes from a residential perspective anyways, bottom line is it takes away from, the dollars and cents that we're allowed to use for, for our families. However, if we're getting the right services and we're getting value for our taxes, then there is, nothing wrong with having taxes. Having them too high, obviously, is not something anybody wants. But again, from a residential perspective, what's wrong with them is essentially that it takes away from the dollars and cents that we have to be able to put towards our families. Thank you.
I was just about to say 15 seconds, but thank you, Curtis. Perfect. So appreciate that. So next up, we have a question. We had two questions from Maureen. I'm guessing that's Maureen Nelson. So thank you, Maureen, for those. I'm actually just going to combine them together because I think they actually play off of each other very well. So Maureen said, for the incumbents, Current councillors have all taken courses through municipal affairs. Which ones have you found the most beneficial and you would recommend for all? And then the question, I guess, for those who are not incumbents, those who are trying to get on for the first time, what would help you as a councillor, right? Anyone running for the first time, have you taken any courses, and what do you think will help you as a councillor? So we'll start that next speaking order. I'm going to start with Gunnar on this one. So Gunnar, you have 60 seconds, and that starts now.
For running for a counselor, I haven't taken any courses specific, just what I've learned and done over my lifetime of 48 years. And that's what I'm hoping that'll move me forward. When I was looking at running, I did notice that there's some courses moving forward, and the question about which ones to take was actually a question I was looking forward to asking so that I can have them. I definitely like learning everything I can, and I wish I'd taken more that, that I could say that would be a direct benefit. But outside of my life experiences, I don't really have anything more than that. Thanks.
Thanks, Gunnar. Jonathan, 60 seconds to you.
All right, thanks, Maureen. And I also want to, always cautious highlighting different people within our community, but I appreciate Maureen's engagement in our local municipal governance and the encouragement she's provided in the last 4 years for me. When we were first elected, the MGA mandates that within X number of days, we have to be part of an elected officials program. The drawback within that course was that it was provided by lawyers, and it was, I found a little bit challenging. My role outside of council is I'm a learning and development consultant. I develop and design and deliver training. And what I found really good for us as council was a couple months later, maybe even longer, we had a couple of employees of municipal affairs come and do a one-on-one engagement with us. And we were able to pick their brains about different elements of governance. And I personally, I appreciated that much more than the legal training we received from the firm in our elected officials program. But you never know. I may create.
Jonathan cut his mic there, so he did the abrupt end. I love it. Sorry, I'm just managing. There's a couple of people messaging me as well. So the next counselor, or sorry, next candidate up is Hazel Martin. So Hazel, over to you with 60 seconds.
Thank you very much, Maureen. That's a great question. Maureen, no, I haven't done any courses in municipal government. I do have in my hand here is John Waring's little brochure. And one of his courses that he has is Muni 101. And that is what I would like to be the first course to take. Working on administration is totally different than working on council. So if I have that opportunity, yes, I would like to, expand my knowledge.
Thanks, Hazel. Next up, we have Richard Brotherston. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Maureen. I'm looking forward to learning and taking a lot of courses if elected. I think that I would like to take those courses even if I wasn't elected, because I really want to know more about municipal government. John Waring's 101, I would definitely take that for sure. And I would definitely look to the incumbents to kind of help and guide any of the newbies along the way. Once the courses are sort of taken, if there's any gray areas or things you don't understand, that you can go to them and kind of go from their wealth and knowledge that they've had over the last 4 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Next up, we have Wayne Hill. Wayne, 60 seconds to you. Sorry, just before you go, Wayne, I just wanted to mention one more thing, which was before the session, I spoke with the candidates here, and we were planning to wrap at 7:30 because it was going to get dark and we were going to be outside, but we don't have that restriction now. So the candidates have graciously agreed that we can extend it a little bit longer if there are additional questions. So please feel free to get those questions in. So Wayne, over to you, 60 seconds.
Well, part of my decision to run in the first place was with some great mentorship of some former councillors, elected officials through Black Diamond and Turner Valley municipalities. I was given a piece of literature, Small Town Politics and Elected Officials Companion by an ex-councillor, Barry Williamson. That may be a familiar name. As well as just, yeah, there has already been a few helping hands from current incumbents as I've been doing my campaigning. So I'm looking forward to taking any courses available, any training. I'm a learning kind of a guy going from an apprenticeship. I love to further my knowledge and my skill set. I don't like to speak on things I don't know about. And definitely the mentorship of the current councillors that do sit on the council for their next term, I think will be a great help to guide us newbies, as it's been put, into the council role. No, you're muted, Jamie.
I've only been doing this for 2 years. You'd think I'd have it figured out by now. John, you're up next. John Murray.
Yeah, well, thanks for the question, Maureen. And in the 7 years I've been on council, I just like to say how much I appreciate you do for the town. The current council have put pressure on our administration, our CAO, who's the only person who works for us, so we give him all our troubles, to make sure that there is a good training program ready for the next council. We staggered through our training in bits and bobs, and like Councillor Gordon said, some of the best training we had was from municipal affairs people. EOEP, which is the Elected Officials Education Program, they run a whole series of programs, and if you look at my little brochure, it gives a list of some of the ones I think are key, starting with Muni 101, etc., etc., etc. And thank you, Hazel, for reading my brochure. Yeah, you will get every opportunity to be trained in the job, but it takes time. You won't learn it all in a year. You won't learn it all in 5 years. Always, it's a learning process.
Thanks, John. Next up, we have Garry Raab. Garry, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question, Maureen. I've taken lots of training over the years, and I consider myself a learner through my professional career and through municipal, like since I started municipal government. You know, I really can't say this one stands out as the best I've had. I've had a lot of so-so ones, I'm sad to say. And we have put, like Councillor Gordon mentioned, the elected officials one wasn't quite up. And, you know, there was 4 newbies at that time. There were 5, I think it was 5 maybe. And it was kind of a big learning curve for everyone. So hopefully if some of the incumbents get re-elected, then or all of them they'll be able to help the new people. But I'm hoping we put some pressure on legislative services, see if we can get a better, you know, initiation manual for our new councillors and our old councillors as well, if whoever gets reelected. So probably a couple of ones that the council role's not bad. I took a couple in finances that they weren't outstanding, but they were good. I took one on phosphorus way back when with respect to West End, the sewage. This wasn't a course, but it was a process. We worked on West End governance to talk about whether we're going to join Shruk or whether we're going to go on our own or whatever, or stay as a commission, look at the options. That was a real learning experience for me. That was probably the best learning. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm good. No problem.
He just wants to talk tonight. So
I love to talk. Yeah.
Next up, we have Curtis Dixon. So Curtis, over to you.
Hi, thank you for that question. It actually reminded me of something I forgot to mention in my opening speech, and that was that when I was in college, I was actually part of student council, not only as a counselor, but I eventually became president. And part of that, we were required to take different courses. There was an effective governance for student counselors course that I took. There was a Robert's Rules of Order course that I took through that. And also last time I ran for counselor here in Turner Valley, there was a candidate to counselor series that was offered by a local group that I was also a part of. So well, I do have a few courses in the background that I have taken over the years, and I certainly look forward to taking any more courses that I can. I love taking courses. I try to take them whenever I get a chance. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to take some more for sure. So thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. Cindy, last but not least, over to you.
Yeah, nothing like showing up to your first meeting and being like, motion, what's a motion? How do I make a motion? It's very, very tough, but we're going to get you through it. The incumbents, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. As far as actual courses I took, my two favorites were, I think it's called ICS 100, and it was done by our emergency our specialist, Director of Emergency Operations, I guess is his full title, Mr. Rook. I loved it. It was right after Fort McMurray wildfires. So really loved hearing how that all gets organized and learning that. Second favorite would have been strategic planning, because that's critical for getting us on course. And it's something I hope that we'll be working on as a council right away as we get into things. So those are my two.
Thanks, Cindy. Appreciate that. Thanks for the question, Maureen. Next question comes from Jay, and Jay's asking a question further to Jason's, which is, does the town have a scoring process for bids? So Jason, I'm going to open this question up a little bit only because I do know that there is a procurement policy that the town does have, but I'll throw the question more generally open to the group then. Any thoughts on bid selection and scoring processes when it comes to bids on town activities? And so I'm going to start out with Garry Raab. So Garry Raab, you are up first. Go ahead.
So your question is there a bidding process, et cetera? Is there a scoring process? The answer is yes. That is, I'm sure there's an administration is the one that looks after that. That's the CEO's job and administration. I know that we do see bids, and we always ask for more than one bid. So to be transparent, et cetera. And Councillor Waring, or John Waring, and I are going to be dealing with, we have one more meeting, I believe, with West End, and that's to look at the bid process and bid selection for our West End development, which I think is next week. So we're going to learn how MPE does it. But the answer is yes, we have a system. I don't understand it totally because it's not my area of expertise. I don't think I need to do that. That's not my job. That's administration. But he does have criteria. And I know when we chose the contractors on Sunset, we were exposed to the bids and who got it and why they got it. So that's all I can say.
Thanks, Garry. Next up, we have Richard Brotherston. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. As much as I don't really know so much about the bidding process or the scoring process, kind of going with what Garry Raab said, I do believe that, multiple bids need to go out and tendered and looked at closely. It's not always the lowest bid or the highest bid that you would go with. It's the more reliable bid. And yes, I think you have to put your faith in the CAO, the person that actually makes that decision. So as long as there's a communication line between sort of the CAO and council, and maybe residents, at least informing the residents that certain bids have kind of come in and this is why we've done it. Maybe that's something that you would do as well. But yeah, that's kind of my take on that question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Next up, I have Wayne Hill. Wayne, go ahead.
Thanks, Jake. That's a really good question. And as a first-time candidate, yeah, I didn't have the answer to that question. Learning about what Garry had said, apparently there is a process there that is chief administrative officers, more of their ball field. However, to follow up with Richard, agreed. Tendered bids are a great competition is healthy. Again, like he reiterated Richard's space there, lowest bid isn't always the best bid. Sometimes you got to look at, you pay the price for quality. But yeah, some transparency and a little more faith in the people who do make those decisions to use their best judgment to benefit the project as well as the final outcome itself.
Thanks, Wayne. Perfect. So next up we have Gunnar Pearson. Gunnar, go ahead.
So yeah, as everybody said, there is a bidding process and request for proposals. With it not being our decision, I'm hoping we do have some feedback into that bidding. I'd like to know what the bidding process is, because some of the people that I've worked with in the past on some of these projects, we've had it where they brought in the lowest bidder to do this little section of road or this subdivision and that, and we've spent more money trying to fix it than what they did. So it's not only knowing what the bid is, like Richard and Wayne said, it can't be the lowest bidder. You have to have the quality there, because if you don't have the quality, you're doing it a second time. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunnar. Over to Cindy. Cindy Holladay, over to you.
Yeah, so usually, as I said before, well, always our packages, our tender packages and requests for proposals and quotes are always online. I know they usually lay out the criteria and what they're expecting for the bid. There is lots of legal requirements, definitely, to make sure this is done correctly, not just internally, but ones that, free trade agreements, that sort of thing. Usually we are required to go with the lowest bidder if they meet all the requirements. We're not allowed to discriminate to favor local businesses or anything like that. So there's clear rules we have to follow, and we've been definitely much more involved in making sure that we know how many bidders we have, and to making sure that the processes are followed. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Cindy. Next up, we have John Waring. John, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The bid process is pretty well laid out in the terms and conditions of the directive from the council through the CAO for this. There is a table of assessment that is applied to any bids that we receive. It's like a weighing. You get so many points for your price, you get so many points for your experience, you get so many points for various things. And this is normally part of the package to make sure that everybody's on a level playing field and realize what we want to see in that package. The analysis of the package is done by administration. They bring the reports to council and with a recommendation of who to hire. As Councillor Raab mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing this on the 15th of this month for the $17 million project at West End. This will be done with our engineers, MPE, and it's a very detailed process.
Thanks, John. Next up, we have Hazel Martin. Hazel, over to you, 67.
Great question. When I was involved with events, council had, this was the first time procurement policy had been made, and for events, I think it's $3,000 that you had to go out and ask for a bid. So for fireworks for our New Year's Eve, this is just an example. We had to go. We prepared a request for quote, and we did get 3 bids in. And I sat with the manager, Monique Leblanc, who is community services. We went through the bids. They also had, at that time they had to provide, a quote for the cost. We not only looked at the cost, we also looked at the value that they brought. They also had to have insurance. We had to also make sure that they carried WCB and that their staff were also covered. So that was my involvement with going out for bids.
Thanks, Hazel. I'm hoping we can see some fireworks here at some point in time. Between the fires and COVID, it's been a long time. So so thank you for your work on that. Curtis, Dixon, over to you next.
Once again, I'm really liking the layout of these, of how you've got people going here, because all the answers are provided before I even get a chance to speak. So once again, what they said, obviously there are pieces in place for bidding. I would anticipate nothing less. I'm glad to hear that there are. In my background in technology, we always are required to ask for numerous quotes on various things, and sometimes it's not the lowest one. It's sometimes the better company, or and so on and so forth. So Thanks again, everybody, for answering the question before my turn. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that these policies are in place. Thank you.
Curtis, thank you. Luck of the draw sometimes, I guess. I know the next round I've scattered already and you're up earlier. So so you'll be on the hook for the next one. Next up, we have Jonathan Gordon to wrap things up on that.
Hey, Jay, thanks for the question about the scoring process. So if we want to get technical, we have a purchasing of goods and services policy. It's policy number Mama Papa Foxtrot Alpha 13.14. Section 6, we have an evaluation and contract award. And there's the criteria. That's the scoring. So price is 30%, project team qualifications is 30%, previous experience is 20%, similar projects of that is 10, local experience is 10, references are 10, and interview is 10%. That's page 14 of our purchasing of goods and services policy, and we do have scoring. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. I swear to God, Jonathan Gordon has just a room full of papers somewhere. So thank you, thank you, Councillor Gordon. The next question, and I love this one. This is one that's near and dear to my heart, and this is one from Jason Martin again. So his question was, how will you help Main Street lots get developed? Great open-ended question. Lots of ways to take that. Our speaker order on this go round, we are going to start out with Hazel Martin. So Hazel, over to you, 60 seconds.
Great question, Jason. As you know, right now, we do have about 6 lots that are available to be developed. I don't believe giving any tax incentives is going to help to get those developed. There needs to be something in place that there comes a time of where they have to develop. And I don't have the knowledge behind that of how long a commercial property can sit vacant before it needs to be developed. I'm sorry, I cannot, give any more information.
Thanks, Hazel. Next up, we have Gunnar Pearson. Over to you for 60 seconds.
Hi, thanks for the question. I got to admit, this isn't something that is my specialty or in my wheelhouse. The best way to try and develop it is see what's worked for the people that have come in recently and speak to them with their experience, and just speak to business owners in general that are around on, pardon me, on what were some of the incentives that brought them here, what we can do better. I wish I had more, but unfortunately that's just not in my experience. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunnar. Next up, Curtis. You've got one on me.
I don't know if I have an answer now because I don't follow everybody. Sorry. First of all, I'd like to find out from the owners of the properties why they haven't been developed yet. But more importantly for me, with my technology background, there's a huge boom in our province right now, and a lot of companies are looking for small towns such as ours. So I would certainly want to dive deeper into that and see if we couldn't find some tech-based companies to perhaps set up and a call center or a distribution center or something along those lines on our main street. It seems to me that would be a fantastic opportunity. So I think technology might be a very good way to approach that.
Perfect. Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate that. Next up, John Waring. John, over to you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The IEDC are doing a lot of work on this. The finding of land that's available to develop, the finding of people that might be interested to develop it. So this is an ongoing activity, shall we say. If somebody purchases a piece of land, we can't make them develop it. There's no power in the Municipal Act that says we can do this. So if somebody wants to buy a piece of land and sit on it for 25 years and then sell it to make a profit, land banking or whatever you like to call it, we can't prevent it. We have to rely on the fact that the people who are purchasing this land are doing so for the right reason, and that's to develop it. but until they come with a development permit, we can't
15.
do anything. But we're relying very much on the IEDC to move forward on these problems.
Thank you, John. Next up is Richard Brotherston. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the question. This I thought a lot about. I believe that the town has done probably a great job in the last little while in reducing red tape to kind of help businesses to come to this town and open up businesses without too much of a hassle, so to speak. I know there's quite a bit of land that on the main street that is up for development. I think we need to kind of look to some, and maybe it's the IDC or something that would actually do a planning of that area to try and find businesses that complement this community. So nothing like repetitious businesses. So not another liquor store, not another pizza place or that kind of thing. So just an overall plan of saying, okay, there's these lots, what we would like to see there, what would be beneficial to the residents, to the community, to tourism, those kind of things, and then talk to and work with the owners of the land to go out and actually find those type of businesses and entice them to come in. And then the town maybe can give some incentives. I'm not sure what they would be, whether that's taxes or such. So thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Next up, we have Garry Raab. Garry, over to you.
Thank you very much. A great question, and it's been a frustration, source of frustration to our current council or previous council. There's land sitting there, and of course, we don't own the land, so you can't, and they can ask whatever they want for it, and that could be a roadblock as well to the development. One thing we did do, thanks to some work by our council, I believe, and administration, we have a new land use bylaw, and that has taken away parking, which has been a thorn in the side of some developers. But because we don't own the properties, it's pretty hard to control who's going to sell them and for what. I agree, we did reduce red tape. We're trying our best to encourage development. We are fortunate the Royal Bank has changed hands. The old post office is now a different business. So it's all good, but tax incentives are certainly something we talked about, and I wouldn't rule that out. So for the future.
Thanks, Garry. Next up is Jonathan Gordon. Jonathan, go ahead.
Hey, Jason, thanks for asking this excellent question. I believe it's a layered approach, and I think we've already laid a good foundation for that. Garry Raab just mentioned the land beside the RBC post office building. The developers there came to our council chambers, presented what they wanted to do, and I asked a specific question. I said, have you brought this forward before? And if so, why are you bringing it back now? And the reason they brought it back now was we amended the land use bylaw. We removed the parking restrictions, and they said that's the only reason we came back. So it's a layered approach. We cut the red tape, we removed the restrictions that are within the land use bylaw, which we already have done, and it's brought developers back to the table. And so this will continue to build the momentum. And upon that layered approach, with those that are waiting to develop or perhaps needing to move forward, I believe we can begin to incentivize. And this is about rolling out the red carpet. We wanted to encourage them about how we support businesses, how we support local development. And I believe that layered approach will work.
Thanks, Councillor Gordon. Next up, we have Cindy Holladay. Cindy, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to build on what Councillor Gordon and Rob mentioned with the RBC, the land beside the RBC, because that is something I'm super excited to see, and I hope it goes forward sometime soon, because I think it's going to be a flagship. But the one thing that we did do in that situation is we had an old road allowance that that the town owned right beside those lots. That was crucial for letting another development come, the development that they wanted come in there. So we bent over backwards to get that done in a timely manner to be able to sell that to the developer. We also updated Gooding Lane right in behind there just over last month. It was a big storm project so that when those lots get developed, they have something to tie in for storm. So there's lots of things that we can do. It is a layered approach. And I really do think Amalgamation is going to bring a lot of interest and attract more investment in our communities as we're as we stop competing with each other between the two towns and can really focus on our marketing.
Thank you, Cindy. Last but certainly not least, Wayne Hill. Wayne, go ahead.
Thanks for that question, Jason. It's a great one. Economic growth is a prime directive of mine. I've said it online, I think, before. I see a semi-blank canvas here in Turner Valley, and I think one of the big questions that I was looking to answer, should I be elected to council, is, yeah, what were those red tapes? What were those roadblocks that businesses, developers, what were they facing? What were they hurdling? And I have since learned absolutely who owns the land and what they're willing to do with it is a big one. And, what can we do? Well, I think that we can do exactly what the current council has been doing is, fine tuning the red tape process and working with the developers and potential businesses to accommodate their needs, to allow them to come here instead of, throwing your hands up, there's not much more we can do or whatnot. Let's help them get in here and get successful. And, with more businesses in town, it's more sharing of that tax pie to help our, maybe not tax breaks, but definitely stretch our tax dollars a little further to get a little more out of our bucks.
Thanks, Wayne. That's great. Look, we've already gone almost to 8 o'clock here, so I'm going to cut things off there. I did see there was a couple of additional questions. I do hope that you'll reach out to candidates with those questions. I don't want to stretch it any longer here because I know there is some hard stops at 8 o'clock. So thank you to each and every one of you as candidates for putting your name forward. As somebody who made that decision a couple of years ago, I know it's not an easy one. And thank you for taking the time to try to get together with folks today to have some of these discussions. I mentioned the idea of having some breakout rooms here. My gut tells me that we might be late enough in our night that may not be all that valuable to folks tonight. So I was thinking smaller groups could get together in smaller rooms and be able to have some discussions. But if that's something that people are interested in, I can absolutely host something like that moving forward as well. And I thank you all for attending, and residents, thank you for all of your questions. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you all. And just a couple of notes logistics wise. Make sure that you double check the town website for the advanced polling and actual election day material. I do know that our first advanced polling day is tomorrow. So please, if there's anything that prevents you from voting in the actual election on the 18th, please make sure that you find a time to vote in advance. I will distribute the recording of this session on YouTube, and I'll make sure it gets out on social media. All of the candidates, feel free to share. I'll also include for all of the candidates a follow-up email that includes some instructions for if you want to clip your answers to certain things, if you want to take people to specific timestamps. I can give you some ideas on how to do that to help get your message out there a little bit better. I know it's a tough year as far as reaching people goes, and I hope that this was valuable for everybody. So thank you all so much. I'm going to wrap things up there. And if you do have any interest in some smaller format, more intimate sessions, please feel free to let me know, and I could try to organize something prior to voting day. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening, and the recording is coming soon.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks so much, Jamie, and thanks everyone. Fellow candidates, all the best, and I'm sure we'll cross paths over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Everyone.
Nice meeting
Yeah,
you guys.
wishing
Gunnar,
you-
I'd never seen you before. I said hi to Wayne across across the fence. That's as close as I got to him. Thank you guys for all your kind compliments to the current council.
So-
We work hard, but it's really appreciated. I'm glad you appreciate it. And good luck to all 9 of us.
So I've got a $10 gift card to Tim Hortons for the first person who can tell me what L stands for in Gunnar's first name, other than
It's
Gunnar.
Lauren.
Okay, Hazel, I'll get that to you. You got
How
to
did you know that?
private text me.
Hazel knows all.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
right.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
folks. I'm going to
Hazel,
close
you
things
gotta give
down
me your
here.
address.
Would it be a
Have
good
a
idea to
wonderful
remind
evening.
everybody of
Thanks,
our social
everyone.
media platforms?
Thanks, Jamie.
Best of
Oh,
luck.
yeah.
all.
Night, everybody.
Guys,
Thank
sorry
you.
before
It's
Good
been
night,
everybody
everyone.
great.
Thanks so much.
Good night,
Thanks,
folks.
Jamie.
Wayne, Wayne, I'm going to make sure that I push all of that out, and I'm going to make sure that everybody's social media platforms are linked in my follow-up message as well. So I want to make sure that everybody gets all of that as well. So if anybody else has any material that they'd like me to include and to push out in that, please feel free to send it my way. I want to do everything I can to get it out there.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks
a lot, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
Paul.
great evening.
Good night.
Have a
Bye
good
now.
night, guys.